Alright, so I'm back making another video. Excuse me for a minute. And, what I really want to be specific in this video, so it's not a random rant, is that I want to talk about myself and my experiences. And I think that I've had a decent sense my whole life, like, with very concrete things, like, what can I say? Like, things that are concrete are much easier to, for lack of a better word, predict. But I don't like the word predict at all, but I can't think of a better word. Like, if I were playing cards, and we would play a card game when I was a kid, me and my family would play a card game where you would put down a card, say I put down a 5, and then the person next to me puts down a 5, then I would have to pay a dime, and you would go around with this in a circle. And I would be able to take my cards, and I would have my hand in one hand, and I could pick one card, and I could feel a tingling, I guess you could call it, in my hand, and it would go down into my wrist, this area of my wrist. It would get sore, and it would pulsate into here, especially into here, but into here is where it would get sore, and it would just feel like major blood rushing. And the more sore my hand got was usually the best card to put down, and I actually won a lot of money as a kid doing that. And so that's how I know that this hasn't randomly arose. It's just that it has become more heightened recently, and I use the word recently kind of lightly, like, because normally when I use the word recently, it's within the past couple weeks, and that's not how I'm using it here. The most dramatic thing that happened would probably have been a little over a year ago, considering it is, well, since we're past midnight, it's, January 23rd, and the most recent thing that happened was New Year's Eve last year, so not the one that was, like, 24 days ago, the one that was, like, almost, like, 391, I can't do math, but days ago. And what it was is someone had recently been shot in my town. I live in a very small town, which is peaceful for the most part. You never get something that violent happen. It's like, and someone had recently been shot and killed, murdered, and so everyone was still very deaf, you know, and I was feeling a lot of it. I was picking up on a lot of the energies, a lot of the depression, death energies, and this was when I really started to realize that I would pick up on energies. People around me were sad. I was sad. Even though I didn't personally know the man who was shot very well, I could feel everyone else's sadness to such an extent that it were almost as if someone very close to me had been shot. And that, I mean, that's really hard to deal with, right? Especially, I was 15 then. And so, yeah. I mean, that's just a really hard thing to deal with. So I came into town one night, and it was New Year's Eve, and I drove past a house, and this feeling, it just washed over me, like you're at the beach and you're laying down in the sand and then a wave washes over you and it just hits you. Well, that's what this was like, except it was this big wave of depression and sadness and death, which I had come very used to feeling. Like, I had come very used to, very used to feeling because of this thing that had just happened. I mean, in November, I believe, was when he was shot, and then this was January, the end of December. So it was a very familiar feeling, like death. And I said it out loud, but I said it very quietly. Someone's gonna die tonight. And I couldn't take in the logic that there was 2 cop cars parked outside of this house But I just looked at the house and saw darkness and felt death. And then later on that evening, we were walking down the street, and as it would so happen, we were actually walking past this house, and I feel that this is coincidental that we were walking past the house, but then again, I also don't particularly believe in coincidences, so I'm very much a hypocrite, I can admit it. But anyway, we're walking past the house, and my friend gets a text message on her phone telling us that someone had killed themselves in that house, that I had picked up the energy from, that someone would die. And ever since then, I've been very aware of what sense I have. When I was younger, it was just, yo, I can play cards, and then that happened, and I realized I can predict things. Not predict, I dislike that word, because I did not predict it, I knew it happened, or knew it was happening, and that just happened recently, and when I say recently, I mean last weekend recently, which I would also like to talk about. And so I became very aware then. That was a year ago. That was when I became extremely aware. Now, this recent one, I want to check my time here. This very recent one was this weekend that just passed, and I could feel a darkness. And I was like a couple kilometers away from this place. I mean, literally like probably 5-6 kilometers. It was in like, I live out in the country, and this was in town, so 5-6 kilometers away, and I could see and feel this darkness surrounding the apartment of a friend of mine's house. And it was a very familiar darkness. It was a darkness that I'd experienced when I was about 13, and I was like going down the bad path, like not doing my homework, or just started drinking alcohol, like, and hanging around. Like, it was when I first started considering like becoming aware of sex and stuff, like just that kind of not coming of age, but that awareness of the world and its darker areas. And so this darkness that I was sensing, I was picking up on it. It was a very familiar darkness, and I knew that not much harm could really come from it because I'd been through it. And I was picking up on it so much, and I thought, and I just knew. I said, oh, she's at his apartment, and maybe they're making out or something, and they're really high. That was my knowledge coinciding with my sense. Then I get to school on Monday, and I found out I was totally wrong. It was that, I don't want to say too much because this video is going on YouTube, and I don't want to say anything to the world, but like, I found out that I was pretty wrong, because first of all, who I had thought it was a totally different person. A lot more than making out happened. And, yeah, but I had the place right. I had the guy wrong too. I had the girl and the guy wrong. From what I thought, I had the girl and the guy wrong, and I had the place right. I had the darkness, the view of darkness. I had that right. They were drinking, but getting high drinking. It was intoxication was what the sense told me. Getting high was what my knowledge told me. So I mean, I sense that. I get to school, and someone tells me about it, like my friend tells me about it, and I go, yeah. Like, I didn't say that because I didn't want to sound really weird, but I said to myself, I'm like, yeah, I know something happened. And then when she told me what happened, I was like, oh, didn't know that happened. But it's just really weird, and I can kind of predict things, like when my best friend's boyfriend was gonna break up with her. I mean, everyone saw it coming, but I mean, I predicted on the night. I said, it will happen tonight. When really, a lot of people could have guessed, oh, it'll go on for a few more weeks, but I said, it's gonna happen tonight, because I picked up on such a negative energy. Just the thought of that energy makes me want to curl up in the fetal position. Like, it was literally like my heart just sunk and sunk and sunk. It was that powerful and depressing. And my friend has asked me if I would predict where he and his girlfriend will be, and these predictions, I cannot stand that word, for lack of a better word though, these predictions, they're very subjective. As things change, they will change. So if someone's gonna ask me, will me and my girlfriend be together in a year? At that point, I can say, yeah, the relationship is really happy right now, and you guys will most definitely be together in a year. But then something could happen a month or two later, and he could say the same thing. Are we still going to be together in a year? And I could say, you're not. And how do you say that? It's like, I can't control what's going to happen, but I can be the messenger. And how do you tell someone, no, you're not going to be with your girlfriend next year, when they're so obviously in love with them? And luckily, I've never had to grant that type of news, but it's just so weird to be able to, like, know that. And I don't like it. I wish that I could be totally ignorant to it all. And this video is getting lengthy. So, it's like 1:30 in the morning. And again, like I said, I have to get up. So, another video could be coming. Another video might not be coming. But until then...